Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loans are starting to be forgiven. Do you need to be doing some tax planning right now to get ready? I got 3 steps coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I am the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. So the Paycheck Protection Program, one of the key ingredients to the CARES Act stimulus program, passed last March, and it was significant aid to small businesses. If you look around the economy, we've got Wall Street flying high, we've got big business doing great, we've got small businesses struggling. Small businesses are struggling. If you own a small business, if you run a small business, likely 2020 was the most difficult year in your existence. Now, still, as I say that, some small businesses are still very much struggling. If you own a restaurant or retail establishment that's now succumbed to new lockdowns, you're probably still struggling. Other small businesses have maybe weathered the storm and they're on the upswing. But this has been a very, very challenging year, and the PPP loan provided some very, very, very crucial aid to your small business. Now, the big feature with the PPP is it was forgivable. That's incredible. And Congress promised, listen, the forgiveness won't be taxable. Okay, we'll talk about that right now. So if you own a small business, I've got 3 steps you need to be taking right now in regards to your PPP loan. The very first one is, yes, at the intro you heard me right. PPP loans are being forgiven right now. You've been waiting on guidance from your SBA approved lender or from your financial advisor, wondering, when can I submit my application for forgiveness? The answer is now. I've had my first handful of clients already receive notices from the SBA last week that their loans were forgiven. That's a big deal. So if you have a PPP loan and you have not applied and submitted an application for forgiveness, now is the time. Reach out to your SBA approved lender, go through the application with them, submit all of the documents to them, and get that application going. I've been telling you to wait because we've been waiting on guidance, we've been waiting on automatic forgiveness information. Now's the time to submit that application. I had a client that had a PPP loan of $52,000. They got it approved very, very quickly. I had a client that had a PPP loan around $200,000. They got it approved very, very quickly as well. Once you submit your full completed forgiveness application, your SBA approved lender has 60 days from the time they receive your complete and full application to issue their opinion and then push it up to the SBA. And then the SBA has 90 days from receiving that completed application to issue their determination on how much is forgivable. I have not seen those timelines tested. I have seen SBA approved lenders ready to go and submitting it to the SBA very, very quickly. And believe it or not, I've seen the SBA turn their decision around very quickly as well. Those clients that I mentioned, it was about 10-day turnaround from the SBA. 10-day turnaround. And their banks, their SBA approved lenders, was within a couple of days. That they've been working with their lender, and within a couple of days after receiving it, the lender said, yep, we've already issued our opinion, we've submitted it up to the SBA, and then within 10 days they get an answer. So if you've been waiting, if you have not applied for forgiveness, now's the time, go do that. The second thing that you have to do right now, if you have a PPP loan for your small business, is you need to start tax planning now. Why tax planning? Because it's very, very likely that the forgiveness of the PPP loan is going to result in significantly more tax. Wait a second. I thought Congress said they weren't going to tax the forgiveness. They did. Congress came out and said this forgivable loan, the PPP loan, when it's forgiven, that will not be taxable to you. Wonderful. That's great. However, the IRS has come out and said, yeah, that's true. However, whatever you use the money for that's forgiven, we're not going to allow you to expense that money. Well, wait a second. So if those expenses don't count, then that means your profit is higher by the amount of your forgiveness, and that means you've got to pay more tax on that higher profit. It's a backwards way of making the PPP loan taxable. You know, in order for your PPP loan to be forgiven, you needed to use it for certain things like salaries and rent. Those were all deductible expenses. They were deductible expenses prior to having the PPP, and they were deducted from your overall your revenue and resulted in a certain profit margin or lower net income, and that's what you paid tax on. Well, if you use this much PPP loan for salaries and rent, and that line comes out, now you have fewer expenses and your profit significantly increased, and that's what you're going to have to pay tax on. That is unbelievable, and except maybe not. I guess I personally am not too surprised that the IRS would come out with this. So right now, all of our CFPs and CPAs are working with small businesses to do 2 different scenarios for tax planning. All right, here's scenario number 1, where it's showing your current profit plus the PPP loan forgiveness, and based on that, your profit's going to be this. And here's some tax planning strategies that you can do to to defer taxes or to pay as little tax as possible. And after all of those strategies, here's how much you need to be setting aside to be ready to pay when it's tax filing deadline. Or 2, there are some people out there, some CPAs even, that still think Congress is going to come in at the 11th hour and say, no, IRS, you've got to allow these expenses to still count. I don't personally have that opinion. I don't think Congress is going to come in and change the IRS's mind. But there are some people out there, some CPAs in fact, that do. And so the second column of your tax planning needs to show, all right, well, this is just your profit. And if we assume that the PPP is not taxable, then here's your tax planning strategies, and here's what you need to be prepared to pay. So you've got to have both of those strategies ready. That's a significant cash flow change. Number 1, you've got to identify what opportunities that exist for you to improve your tax situation. Should you do a donor advised fund? Should you bring some expenses into this year? Should you fund some retirement accounts that you maybe weren't thinking of? Should you bonus some of this money out to key people? So that's some of the tax planning strategy work that you've got to do with your CFP and your CPA. And then finally, based on all of those ideas, all right, now here's what's left. You've got to be prepared to pay this much to the IRS if the PPP loan is going to be taxable, and this much to the IRS if it's not taxable. You've got to be aware of that, because you have no idea. You have no idea what the cash flow circumstances, what your cash flow is going to look like in the spring. We are still going through this pandemic. We have no idea what's ahead of us from a financial standpoint. And when you're talking about cash flow management for your business, you've got to be equipped to say this much is likely what's going to the IRS, and therefore this much is what I have to cover my expenses. Do that tax planning work now. Finally, step 3. Step 3 is to just be prepared. Be prepared that we might need to extend, you might want to extend your taxes and not file them right on time at that tax filing deadline, March 15 and April 15 of this next year. Why? If we're still waiting on the IRS on what they're going to decide with the PPP, it's very, very likely that you'll want to extend. I would hope, my goodness, I'd hope that we'd have clarity by the end of the year. If we don't have clarity by the end of the year, hopefully we have clarity by March 15 or April 15. But if we don't, the leaders here at Korhorn Financial Group were just talking about this yesterday as to how we're going to advise clients. And I mean, we'd want to say, no, we'd still file your return as based on whatever the determination is at the time. And if they change it, we'll just amend. However, if the determination at the time is the PPP loan is taxable, and then you file your return and submit, an extra $100,000 or so of tax dollars with your return, and then they come out and say it's not taxable, and you've got to amend and hope they give you that $100,000 back, that's an enormous cash flow change. So if there's not clarity, just be prepared. You might be extending your taxes next year. Once again, work with your certified financial planner and your CPA. There needs to be a cohesive collaborative plan between you, your CPA, and your financial planner so that you get on top of this. So ultimately, good news. The PPP forgiveness is happening. It's underway. Loans are being forgiven, so jump on that. But then work with your CFP and your CPA for the tax planning piece and be prepared. Make sure you've got a strategy for the spring. If you don't have a CFP and a CPA working together on your team, we've got them on our team working together. CFPs and CPAs collaborating, working together. Contact us online. You can find us there, korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with a K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well, or just give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.